What would you do if you walked into your marital bedroom and discovered your wife in the act of betraying you with your brother? How would you confront such a profound betrayal, one that shattered everything you believed about love, trust, and loyalty? This is the story of Andre Harris, a man who seemed to have it all: a devoted wife, 4 beautiful children, and a respected career that made him a cornerstone of his community. As the sheriff, he was a guardian of justice, the person people relied on in their most vulnerable moments. But what happens when the one sworn to protect becomes the victim, when the deepest wounds are inflicted by those he trusted the most? One seemingly ordinary day, Andre's life was upended by a revelation so shocking it tore apart everything he thought he knew about his family and his world. The peaceful home he had built with love and care became the stage for a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. This is the story of a betrayal so personal and heart-wrenching that it led to heartbreak, violence, and the tragic disintegration of a family. Before we delve into this devastating case, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Shocking True Crime Stories. This tale will leave you questioning the very essence of trust and loyalty. Andre Harris was a man of strong principles. At 44, he was not just a sheriff but a symbol of integrity and calm leadership in his community. His life revolved around his dedication to justice and his love for his family. At the heart of his world was Jasmine, his wife of 15 years, and the mother of his 4 children. Their love story began when Andre, a young deputy with big dreams, met Jasmine at a community event where she was volunteering. Her radiant smile and kind demeanor captivated him instantly. Reserved by nature, Andre found himself drawn to her warmth and charm. Jasmine, now 39, had grown up in the same town as Andre, but their paths hadn't crossed until that fateful encounter, or so Andre believed. Unbeknownst to him, Jasmine had a past connection to someone Andre held dear, his younger brother, Tyrone. Tyrone Harris, 41, was Andre's polar opposite. While Andre was disciplined, steadfast, and focused, Tyrone was impulsive, charismatic, and carefree. Known for his charm and quick wit, Tyrone was the life of the party, often masking his insecurities beneath his easygoing exterior. Despite his charm, Tyrone had always lived in Andre's shadow. While Andre built a successful career and a loving family, Tyrone's life was a series of missteps, failed relationships, unstable jobs, and a restless search for fulfillment he could never quite find. What Andre didn't know was that Jasmine had known Tyrone long before she met him. The two had attended the same high school. Jasmine, quiet and studious, had admired Tyrone from a distance. He was everything she wasn't: popular, confident, and seemingly untouchable. Like many others, she was captivated by his charm, though he barely noticed her. Years later, when Andre brought Jasmine home to meet his family, she was stunned to recognize Tyrone as the boy she once secretly admired. Andre introduced her with pride, unaware of the flicker of recognition in Jasmine's eyes or the subtle glint of amusement in Tyrone's. To Andre, family was sacred, and bringing Jasmine into his family was a way of solidifying the life he envisioned for them. Tyrone, ever opportunistic, saw the situation differently. The supportive younger brother, welcoming Jasmine into the family with open arms, seemed to fit the role perfectly. Yet, beneath the surface, a hidden connection between Jasmine and Tyrone began to take shape. What started as a subtle bond rooted in their shared past soon grew into something more, a relationship concealed from Andre's trusting eyes. Initially, their shared history provided a private link, a secret only they understood. It was a connection they could talk about quietly, moments that brought them closer while keeping Andre unaware. Though their relationship didn't turn romantic right away, the groundwork was set during those early days. Tyrone became a frequent visitor, his charm and humor making him a beloved presence in the household. Jasmine, feeling the strain of Andre's demanding work schedule and the emotional distance it created, found herself increasingly drawn to Tyrone's attention. Unlike Andre, he noticed the little things: how she styled her hair, the effort she put into meals, or the tiredness in her eyes she tried to mask. For Jasmine, it was as if someone truly saw her again. The pivotal moment came about a year after Andre and Jasmine's wedding. Tyrone stopped by one evening to help with a repair project while Andre was working late. They worked side by side, reminiscing about their high school days and laughing over shared memories. As Tyrone leaned in closer during a quiet moment, his hand brushed hers. Jasmine didn't pull away. It was a small gesture, but it opened a door neither of them could close. For Tyrone, their affair was more than just physical. It was tangled with envy and a long-standing rivalry with Andre. He had always envied his brother's discipline, success, and seemingly perfect life. Being with Jasmine felt like claiming a piece of the stability and happiness he believed should have been his. Jasmine, on the other hand, rationalized her betrayal by telling herself it filled an emotional void Andre had left unaddressed. Yet, the guilt crept in during quiet moments when she was alone. Their secret relationship grew stronger, hidden in plain sight within family gatherings, casual visits, and moments that Andre never questioned. While Andre focused on building a secure future for his wife and children, Tyrone and Jasmine carried on their affair, convinced their secret would remain undiscovered. During the early years of Andre and Jasmine's marriage, 3 of their 4 children were born. Andre, fully devoted to his family and career, had no reason to suspect the cracks forming in what he thought was a solid foundation. To him, his family was his anchor. Malik, the responsible eldest, Jaden, the playful middle child, Cameron, the quiet observer, and Aaliyah, the youngest, whose infectious joy brightened the entire household. Unbeknownst to Andre, the family he cherished was built on a lie, a deception that would eventually shatter everything he held dear. The relationship between Jasmine and Tyrone began as a nostalgic connection, but it quickly spiraled into a tangled web of longing and betrayal. Their early encounters were marked by fleeting moments, lingering glances, accidental touches, and stolen conversations that hinted at more. What began as harmless reminiscing soon grew into an intense affair they couldn't resist. The first time they crossed the line, it felt both thrilling and inevitable. Tyrone had come over one evening when Andre was working late as usual. Jasmine had asked for help with a household repair, and Tyrone, ever eager to please, agreed. Their shared laughter as they reminisced about the past turned into something deeper. In the narrow hallway, Jasmine brushed past Tyrone, and emboldened by the moment, he leaned in for a kiss. She didn't pull away. That single act set the stage for what would become years of hidden meetings, secret desires, and shared betrayals. As the affair deepened, they became adept at weaving their secret into the fabric of everyday life, all while Andre remained oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. They became experts at concealing their forbidden relationship from Andre. Every move was calculated, every moment of intimacy carefully timed to avoid suspicion. Family gatherings provided the perfect cover, opportunities for quiet whispers, fleeting touches, and stolen glances that went unnoticed by others. Tyrone frequently volunteered to babysit the children while Jasmine ran errands, creating the ideal excuse for them to spend time alone. Their shared past offered a natural cover. After all, it wasn't unusual for in-laws to bond over shared memories. Andre never suspected a thing. At first, Tyrone wrestled with guilt over the affair. He knew what they were doing was deeply wrong, not just because Jasmine was married, but because she was married to his own brother. The weight of that betrayal pressed heavily on him. Yet every time he resolved to end it, Jasmine's presence pulled him back. Her attention, her touch, and the way she made him feel like he mattered filled an emptiness Tyrone had struggled with for years. Jasmine was equally conflicted. She loved her family and cared deeply for Andre. But with Tyrone, she felt seen, desired, and valued in ways she hadn't felt in years. He noticed her, appreciated her, and made her feel like the center of his world. Their connection wasn't just physical, it was emotional, forbidden, and electrified by the risk they were taking. Jasmine's confidence, especially in their intimate moments, captivated Tyrone. She had an undeniable ability to make him feel powerless in the best way. Her charm and skill made their stolen moments unforgettable, leaving Tyrone both addicted and unable to walk away. Even when Tyrone tried to distance himself, determined to end the affair before they were discovered, the memories of her touch, her kiss, and the way she made him feel pulled him back. Jasmine knew how to keep him entangled. She gave just enough affection to make him feel needed without overwhelming him, ensuring he stayed ensnared in their dangerous relationship. The secrecy only heightened the intensity. Each stolen kiss, every whispered conversation, was charged with the thrill of the forbidden. They devised clever ways to communicate without drawing attention. Tyrone's text messages to Jasmine were disguised as casual family updates, while Jasmine's errands conveniently brought her near Tyrone's apartment or workplace, allowing them to meet in secret. Even in Andre's home, they found ways to hide their betrayal in plain sight. Family gatherings and casual visits became opportunities to share moments of intimacy without anyone suspecting the truth. To Andre, the bond between Jasmine and Tyrone seemed natural, the kind of closeness that family members often shared. For years, they managed to keep their affair hidden, skillfully weaving their deceit into the fabric of their daily lives. The danger, the guilt, and the excitement of secrecy only strengthened their connection, making their relationship nearly impossible to break. Andre never questioned Tyrone's frequent visits or the way Jasmine seemed to brighten whenever his brother was around. He was too absorbed in his work, too focused on being a provider, and too trusting of those he held closest to his heart to see the truth unraveling right before his eyes. Yet secrets have a way of emerging, no matter how deeply they are buried. The affair between Jasmine and Tyrone, built on deceit and forbidden desire, was destined to come to light. As their clandestine relationship deepened, the risk of exposure grew. Every stolen glance, every fleeting touch, carried with it the potential for disaster. The guilt they suppressed whispered warnings of the inevitable storm that loomed on the horizon. For years, Andre remained blissfully unaware of the betrayal that had infiltrated his own home. He cherished his children and took pride in the life he believed he had built with Jasmine, never suspecting the cracks forming beneath the surface. But everything changed one seemingly ordinary afternoon. During a casual conversation, Jasmine made an offhand remark about how much Jaden's smile reminded her of Tyrone's. On the surface, it was an innocent comment, but it struck a chord deep within Andre. At first, he brushed it off, but the thought lingered, festering in the back of his mind. Small doubts began to take root, questions he couldn't shake. Unable to ignore the growing unease, Andre decided to seek the truth. Yet confronting his suspicions would not be easy. Quietly, he began researching how to conduct a DNA test without raising Jasmine's suspicion. His hands trembled as he ordered a home testing kit online, taking care to have it delivered to a secure location. When the kit finally arrived, Andre hid it in his car, waiting for the perfect opportunity to collect the samples he needed. He planned every detail meticulously, knowing that even the slightest misstep could alert Jasmine to his intentions. Late one night, when the house was quiet and Jasmine was in the shower, Andre moved with silent determination. From Malik's desk, he retrieved a pencil marked with faint teeth imprints. Jaden's bedside table offered a chewed straw from an old juice box, while Cameron's laundry basket provided a sock that would serve its purpose. Finally, he pulled a single strand of hair from Aaliyah's hairbrush, whispering an apology to himself as he placed it in a sealed plastic bag. Each item was carefully labeled and tucked away in the kit. The last step was to collect his own DNA sample. Sitting alone in his car under the cover of darkness, Andre swabbed the inside of his cheek, following the instructions with grim determination. As he sealed the final piece of the puzzle, a wave of nausea washed over him. The act of gathering these samples felt like a betrayal of the very family he had worked so hard to protect. In that moment, Andre's heart was heavy with conflicting emotions: doubt, guilt, and fear of what the truth might reveal. But he couldn't ignore the growing shadow of suspicion. No matter how much it pained him, he had to know. The doubts had rooted themselves too deeply in Andre's mind to ignore. When he mailed the DNA samples the next morning, his stomach churned with unease. He tried to convince himself it was all a mistake, that the results would arrive in a few weeks, proving his suspicions unfounded. He imagined laughing at his own paranoia and moving on. But as the days crawled by, his anxiety only intensified. Andre became hyper-aware of every interaction between Jasmine and Tyrone, every glance, every laugh, every seemingly innocent moment. The thought of them together in ways he couldn't bear to picture consumed him, haunting his days and sleepless nights. When the results finally arrived, Andre's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. His heart raced as his eyes scanned the page. The words hit him like a sledgehammer. Malik, Jaden, and Cameron, none of them were biologically his. Only Aaliyah, his youngest, carried his DNA. The paper slipped from his grasp as his world seemed to collapse around him. A storm of emotions raged within him: anger, heartbreak, humiliation. How could the life he had built, the love, the trust, the family, be founded on such a monumental betrayal? His mind screamed for answers. As the realization set in, an uncontrollable fury surged through Andre, eclipsing every other thought. The family he had sacrificed for, the children he had loved with every fiber of his being, were the result of a deceit so profound it made his blood boil. There was no planning, no hesitation. Gripping the DNA results in his shaking hand, Andre sped home, his thoughts spiraling into chaos. By the time he reached the house, his vision was blurred by rage and heartbreak. Andre stormed through the front door, shouting for Jasmine. His voice echoed through the eerily quiet house, the silence amplifying the tension. Climbing the stairs 2 at a time, his heart pounded with every step. When he reached their bedroom, the sight before him stopped him in his tracks. There, on the bed they had shared for years, were Jasmine and Tyrone, tangled in the throes of their betrayal. The truth that had been revealed on paper now played out in undeniable reality. Jasmine froze, her face draining of color as her eyes locked with Andre's. Tyrone, ever the charmer, opened his mouth to speak, but Andre didn't give him the chance. Overcome by blind rage, Andre's hand instinctively went to his firearm, the weapon he carried every day as a sheriff. The years of deceit, the lies, and the unbearable image of his children being a product of this betrayal erupted into a moment of irrepressible fury. The first shot rang out, striking Tyrone square in the chest and silencing him forever. The smirk that had always infuriated Andre was gone in an instant. Jasmine screamed, raising her hands as if to shield herself from the wrath crashing down around her. But Andre's anger was beyond reason. A second shot echoed through the room, and Jasmine collapsed onto the bed, the betrayal and heartbreak finally silenced. Where her betrayal had been exposed, the room descended into an oppressive silence. The stillness was broken only by Andre's ragged breathing as he stood over their lifeless bodies. The weight of his actions began to settle on him, heavy and suffocating. In that moment, all he could feel was the crushing devastation of a life built on deception, now reduced to ruin in the most horrific way imaginable. The first gunshot had shattered the quiet of the evening, quickly followed by a second. The sound was deafening, reverberating through the house like an explosion. Upstairs, the Harris children were jolted awake, fear gripping them as they processed the noise. 14-year-old Malik was the first to react, bolting out of his room and into the hallway. His younger brothers, Jaden and Cameron, emerged behind him, their faces pale with terror. In her room, little Aaliyah, just 5 years old, sat frozen on her bed, clutching her stuffed bear tightly as the confusion and fear around her grew. "Mom? Dad?" Malik's voice cracked as he shouted, rushing toward the master bedroom. Jaden tried to hold him back, his voice trembling. "Don't go!" But Malik shrugged him off, his determination overriding his fear. Cameron stayed behind, lingering in the hallway and shaking as Aaliyah began to cry softly, too young to fully understand the gravity of what had just happened. Inside the master bedroom, Andre stood in stunned silence. Jasmine and Tyrone lay motionless on the bed, the acrid smell of gunpowder heavy in the air. The reality of what he had done pierced him like a blade. His firearm slipped from his trembling hands, clattering to the floor. The rage that had consumed him moments earlier evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming wave of regret, horror, and despair. The muffled voices and cries of his children outside the door pulled Andre out of his stupor. Panic surged through him. He couldn't let them see this. He turned and stepped into the hallway, carefully closing the door behind him with a shaking hand. Malik stopped abruptly as he saw his father. The teenager's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Dad, what happened?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Andre couldn't bring himself to look his son in the eye. His voice, low and hoarse, came out strained. "Go to your room, take your brothers and sister, now." Malik hesitated, sensing the gravity in his father's tone. "But—" "Go!" Andre barked, his voice cracking as emotion overtook him. The children retreated, huddling together in Malik's room. Their muffled cries filled the air as Andre descended the stairs, each step heavier than the last. Once in the living room, he sank onto the couch, his body drained of all energy. His hands shook uncontrollably as he reached for his phone. He dialed 911, his trembling fingers barely managing to press the numbers. When the operator answered with a calm, professional tone, Andre struggled to find his voice. It's me, Andre," he said, his voice hollow and devoid of emotion. "I just killed my wife and my brother," Andre confessed, his voice breaking as he spoke to the 911 operator. "I'm sorry. I need the police." The operator began asking routine questions. Was he armed? Were others in danger? But Andre couldn't bring himself to answer. He ended the call abruptly, sitting in silence, his head buried in his hands. The crushing weight of what he had done pressed down on him, suffocating and unrelenting. In the distance, the wail of sirens grew louder, each moment drawing him closer to the reality of what awaited. His life, as he had known it, was gone forever. When the police arrived, Andre didn't resist. He walked to the door, raising his hands as the officers approached with their weapons drawn. "I'm unarmed," he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. His eyes, glassy and hollow, betrayed the depth of his despair. The officers cuffed him and led him outside. As he walked toward the patrol car, Andre glanced up at a window. Malik stood there, his face pressed against the glass, silent and expressionless. The image of his son watching him in that moment would haunt Andre for the rest of his days. The investigation was straightforward. The crime scene left no room for ambiguity. Andre's service firearm, discarded on the bedroom floor, matched the bullets found in the bodies. His own 911 call confirmed his guilt beyond question. Though the police shielded the children from direct involvement in the investigation, the trauma they experienced was undeniable. The sound of gunshots, seeing their father after the incident, and being in a house where such violence occurred, left scars that would last a lifetime. Andre faced charges of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of child abuse. The prosecution argued that his actions inflicted immense emotional harm on his children, forcing them to endure a nightmarish situation that no child should ever face. By committing the murders in their home, knowing his children were present, Andre had shown a reckless disregard for their well-being. The courtroom battle painted 2 opposing pictures. The prosecution portrayed Andre as a man who let his anger and jealousy spiral into an act of calculated violence, shattering his family and betraying his duty as a sheriff. They emphasized his position in the community, arguing that his training and responsibility made his actions all the more egregious. The defense, however, depicted a man pushed beyond his limits, consumed by a betrayal so profound it drove him to an irreversible breaking point. They argued that his crime wasn't premeditated, but the result of a momentary lapse driven by blinding rage and emotional devastation. Andre offered no resistance to the charges, accepting his guilt without protest. For him, the trial and eventual sentencing were secondary to the unbearable loss of his family. The life he had built, the trust he had cherished, was gone, reduced to ash by his own actions. Ultimately, Andre was convicted on all charges: 2 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of child abuse. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, the judge's words were both stern and mournful. "While the betrayal you suffered is undeniable, the law cannot excuse the choices you made in response. You took 2 lives, and in doing so, shattered the lives of your children and your community." As Andre was led away in handcuffs, his thoughts turned to his children. He knew they would carry the weight of his actions for the rest of their lives. His only hope, though distant, was that one day they might find it in their hearts to forgive him, even as he struggled to forgive himself. This case stands as a harrowing reminder of the devastating cost of betrayal and the catastrophic consequences of unchecked rage. What began as a marriage rooted in love and trust unraveled into a tragic tale of heartbreak, violence, and unimaginable loss. At its core lies a question that resonates deeply. Could honesty and transparency have prevented this tragedy? Or was the betrayal so entrenched, so woven into their lives, that destruction was inevitable? Andre Harris's story is one of love, loyalty, and trust, twisted by deceit and fury. A respected sheriff, a devoted father, a man who once cherished his family, was driven to commit an unthinkable act when the truth shattered his world. Was Andre a victim of his emotions, pushed to the brink by an unbearable betrayal? Or does the blame rest solely on his shoulders? How much responsibility lies with Jasmine and Tyrone for keeping their devastating secret, knowing it could one day destroy everything? What do you think? Was Andre's crime the result of temporary insanity, or was it the ultimate act of vengeance born from years of festering lies? If this story left you stunned, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more shocking true crime stories. Stay tuned as we explore the darkest corners of human relationships and the consequences of secrets, lies, and betrayal. Until next time, stay safe out there.